I'm starting the recording. Let me see.
We're going live in your Facebook group, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to, for some reason it's not giving me the option to do it in my group.
On the bottom, you don't have the options to go live, is that right?
No, I have the option to go live in Zoom, and then it takes me to my Facebook. And then I log in. Then for some reason I am unable to choose that to be posted in a group. Oh, to my group. Yes, share to my group. Now it did allow me.
Nice.
I need to type in. No, it was there. Here, go. I don't have permissions? No. That's really weird. I can't go live. It doesn't allow me. Because I don't have permission. I think I need to change some settings in my my Facebook group. Um, what's going on here? I am unable to post in that group because let me see. I'm going to make myself an admin right now. Kathy, for some reason, I am not able to post via Zoom. Somehow it tells me that Zoom is not allowed. I don't have permissions to post in my group just because I'm with my personal profile in Zoom. It has locked me with my normal profile. Do I need to be?
We do it all the time from Laura's personal account to her groups.
Mm-hmm.
We log into Zoom. We push to where we go live, whether it's a pop-up group. But that last time we did it was December. So it's maybe Facebook has changed. I know Zoom has changed, right? They do the announcement now where you have participants have to agree to be recorded now. When you hit the record, I had to say, yes, I understand I'm being recorded. So that's a new setting for Zoom. Perhaps that's part of it, is that the recording aspect of Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm appreciative of the challenge.
I've changed something. So I've changed my affiliation with the group. So instead of being affiliated with my public profile. No, so they've changed who can actually post live videos. It looks like. Let me see. Group affiliation. Link pages. So how shall we do it? Shall we just
You could record this live on Zoom if you're wanting to have a quality recording.
Yeah.
And then post it into Facebook. It's not ideal, but what I heard you say earlier is that the majority of watchers were replay watchers, not live watchers. I think Facebook does share more live video than replays. It's kind of a challenge, right? It's which way do you want to go? If you go live directly in Facebook without Zoom, I would have to be a member of your group.
I've invited you to be a member, so you can accept my.
But I don't know how to go on the live with you. It's
Yeah,
only through the tool of Zoom that I know how to do that.
So if if we do live instead of my group on my page, it doesn't allow me. So let me see if it will allow me to do it on my page. Yeah, it allows me to go on my page, which is good enough.
Are you sure? Oh, here we are. We're live now.
Okay. Здравейте! Днес ни гостува Кати. Кати беше в брак, в който нямаше секс. Стресирана относно поведението на доведените си деца, Кати се беше опътила към още един развод. Тогава тя взе решение, което промени живота ѝ напълно. И сега тя има мечтания и сплотен и страстен брак, за който винаги се надяваше да има. Кати ще ни разкаже точно как успя собственоръчно да възвърне страстта и спокойствието в брака си и да го направи такъв какъвто иска. Историята на Кати обиколила света и е разказана пред няколко различни медии, включително и First Women's Magazine, Wall Street Journal and BBC. So hello, Katy.
Hello, Mila.
I am so happy that you are here with us today.
Oh, it's my honor. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story.
Oh, you're so welcome. And thank you for so generously offering to share your story with all Bulgarian women.
Mhm.
So tell us, how's in the worst days of your marriage?
Boy, the worst days of my marriage were the days when I was sleeping in the guest room for 6 months because we had spent a good part of the first 7 years of our marriage fighting over how to raise the kids. We were a blended family. So it was our second marriage, and we each had 2 children. So we were raising 4 children together, both working full time. And oh gosh, I just thought I knew the best way to raise kids or manage our money or manage our home. And I just was surprised that my husband was so defensive or reactive to my suggestions or my ideas. And that just really led us to a lot of fighting. And that fighting led to my husband no longer really being physically attracted to me. And so then I became very demanding of physical intimacy, which was not attractive at all. I just thought it was my right to have physical intimacy in my marriage. And so you can imagine, with all the fighting and the lack of physical intimacy, why I ended up in the guest bedroom. And it was a painful, painful, very lonely time where we didn't talk for days or weeks. And we tried counseling. I read books. I went to conferences. I truly believed that if my counselor could tell my husband what he needed to do, that things would get better. But we left those sessions fighting even more.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really a hard time. I really thought I was going to get divorced a second time. We threatened that often, each of us. That was really hard.
Yeah, it does sound very hard. It sounds very lonely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it sounds like you weren't kind of just sitting there and waiting for something to happen. You were kind of active. You tried to seek help, and it sounds that marriage counseling made it only worse, right?
It really did. And I think in part because I didn't know what I wanted, I just knew what I didn't want. And so all of my efforts were really, now looking back, I know, just complaints and criticisms and not a lot of gratitude or happiness. I don't think my husband could succeed really. It was sad to realize that I mostly um, found fault with my husband.
Yeah. And of course, yeah, and of course, it sounds also very stressful, right? To live
Mhm.
to have a husband who you feel is just not doing anything right, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm sad to just share that with you now, looking back, right? Just to think I just didn't know. I think this was the recipe my parents taught me, right? When I would get in trouble as a child, it was always through criticism and complaint and yelling and fighting. It was just what my family did growing up. It's what I saw as a child. And so I just thought how you get what you need is to complain about it. Oh,
Yeah.
failed recipe for sure.
For sure. Yeah, we know that doesn't work, or at least doesn't inspire the best in our husbands. I can testify to that. Would
I'm
not
glad I'm not
recommend.
alone, Mila.
But tell us more. So you said you were a blended family, and so you had 4 kids. Um, I know 2 of your own and 2 of your husbands that came
Mhm.
together. And I just wonder what was the impact on your family? What was the atmosphere in your home at that time?
It was very stressful, and our children really were confused. Here we came together as a family to provide stability and harmony and safety for our children, having gone through a traumatic divorce in both cases. And we felt like we were brought together for a reason to raise these children, to be role models for them. And then we found ourselves fighting, and in many ways, those kids would get in the middle between us. And so we even sent them to counseling because we thought maybe they were the problem. Well, if the truth be told, I thought it was his children that was the problem. So,
Oh, of
yeah,
course.
of course, right? Oh, and so it was tense. It really was. There was a lot of rules. There was a lot of slam doors and conflict. And
Wow.
in a lot of ways, I felt like we were failing them as well. And it was almost like, let's get out of this by divorcing to spare the children.
Yeah.
Um, I was embarrassed to say the least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's like pressure on top of pressure. Not only, right, your kind of your second marriage, second relationship is kind of falling apart and you have no idea why. Did you choose the wrong man again? And then on top of that comes, the stress that's adding to
Yes.
4 extra human beings, right? In that, wow, I can definitely relate to the stress
Hmm.
of having of feeling like I have to be like wanting to be a role model for my kids. And
Yes.
yeah, yeah. And so uh, tell us, when was the moment that you actually decided to when was the moment you decided to do something different?
Mm. It was really a pivotal moment when I had been complaining to my girlfriends, constantly complaining to my girlfriends about my marriage. And one of my girlfriends told me to either shut up or get a divorce. It was so painful because
Yeah.
now I couldn't even talk to my closest girlfriends. They got so tired of hearing me complain.
Yeah.
And so another girlfriend who I'd told about this situation, who was more indulgent, but I think she too hit her limit. So she invited me to go to the bookstore and get a book. And so I went to the bookstore to get that book, and right next to it was another book. So I bought them both. And I went home and I put them all on my dresser along with all the other books that I had bought, hadn't yet read. I'm a book reader. I love studying and learning, but I often am behind on book reading. I'll buy them and then they'll sit there. I don't know if you can relate. But one weekend we had a big fight. And I just got so mad. I said, I'm leaving. And I threw some clothes in a suitcase and I threw a few books in the suitcase, and off to my mother's I went for the weekend. And while I was there, I had a lot of extra time on my hands. And so I picked up that book. Oh my goodness. I turned every single page of that book with tears rolling down my face because I really thought this author had written the book about me. How did she know what was happening in my house? And I, for the first time, really saw the impact of my disrespect of my husband. And I saw it both in my current marriage, my marriage, and my first marriage, which was so humbling to see. I couldn't put the book down. I read it the whole in that weekend. And so that was a pivotal moment that everything changed.
Change for you. Yeah. So which was that book? I'm curious.
Oh. The book is called The Surrendered Wife by Laura Doyle. Her first book. Yeah.
Yes, yes. We know Laura. Laura has been a guest here as well. And unfortunately, we don't have that book translated just yet in Bulgarian. But maybe one day we will. And in the meanwhile, Bulgarian women have the teachings of Laura as presented in the workshop. So I'm grateful that I have this opportunity to come in contact with this beautiful knowledge through the workshop. Wow. So what a lucky moment. So you just took the book just by chance, just like it sounds like it was an intuitive kind of feeling,
Yes.
like some kind of an intuition. Okay, let's get those two. And an opportunity presented and you read it. And I was like, wow, and I can relate to that. I had exactly the same reaction the first time I read the book. It's like, oh, is that
No one
really
ever
happening?
told me these secrets,
Exactly.
you know? Nobody taught me this. As I told you, my mother didn't act that way or
Yeah.
teach me anything. So it was so insightful. And I guess I was ready. I never read the other book. I just felt drawn to that title, such a controversial title. And yeah, I'm super grateful because I decided after reading the book that weekend, I thought, I have nothing else to lose. I'm on the brink of divorce. It's as bad as it's ever been. Maybe I'll try something that she suggested. And boy, was I delighted to experiment with some of Laura's teaching. And that very day, I shared a little tiny phrase that Laura shares when I came home. My husband asked me a question. And remember, we were in a Cold War. I was sleeping in the guest room. We really were not physically intimate at all. I really thought we were getting divorced. And when I walked through the door, he said, "What should I do with the cell phone plan?" Very sternly. And I said, "Whatever you think." And here was the thing, Mila. My voice was shaking. I was not believing those words I said, but Laura suggested it. So I thought I might as well try it. And because I had trained my husband to check with me on everything, he couldn't make any decisions without my permission. He said, "Oh, no, 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 no. You need to tell me what to do with this cell phone plan." And I just stuck with my guns, shaking like a leaf, not even knowing what I was doing or saying. I just said, "Whatever you think." And then I added, "I trust you to make that decision for our family." Also, completely foreign. I would never have said such a thing because I really thought I knew better. I was a CFO for a private school, so I managed money for a living. So I managed our money, I managed our budgets to tell him, "Whatever you think, decide, I trust you." This was so foreign.
Yeah.
And my husband walked away, scratching his head, going, "What happened to my wife? Like, who are you?" And that night I decided to crawl in bed with him. I went into the marital bedroom and I crawled in bed and he put his hand on my shoulder, Mila, and he said, "You were so nice today." And it was in that moment that I knew this is it. This body of work is going to save my marriage.
Wow, what a transformation from, the loneliest, living in a separate room, and just that little moment of connection and respect that you kind of honored your husband with at that moment, even though it was so scary, even though it was so different from what you thought
Yes.
was. what
Yeah.
you were used to. It's so courageous to try
Mm.
something that it doesn't look like, like, what is this? Is this even going to work? And to try despite of that, and then get that
Mm.
result of being in the same bed and him being so gentle and tender.
And saying I was nice. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not what he used to
What a
say.
what a compliment indeed. What a testimony for,
Mm.
yeah, for how beautifully the skills work. Yeah. I remember one, of course, we've met before, so, and I kind of know a few of little stories of your transformation journey, and I remember one specifically that I would like to invite you to share with our audience today, and that's around. I think it was Laura when she invited you to experiment with, actually. I think it was gratitude, thanking your husband for the things that he did or for the way he is. Do you remember what I'm
I
talking?
do. If I may, I'll connect it with how I actually then reached out to Laura. So after my husband said such this beautiful thing, I the very next day canceled working with a therapist and I wrote to Laura because she put her email in the back of the book. And I just knew she could help me. If I got that kind of reaction out of one little cheat phrase that she teaches, I couldn't imagine what I might be able to create. So I wrote to her and I asked her, would you help me? Would you teach me? I want to do the workshop that you are talking about that you're leading in your living room. I would love to learn that content and even help other women teach that workshop myself if you're willing to teach me. And so she did. She agreed to help me. And she, in the process of being my coach and teaching me the content of becoming a respectful wife, an empowered wife, she invited me one week early in my journey to consider expressing gratitude. And mind you, while I had the early experience and success, I was still stumbling and falling in being a respectful wife. And I was still harboring some resentments and learning to change the dance in my home, the culture in my home. And so I would succeed and then I would forget. I would remember and then I would forget. And so when she invited me to consider practicing the skill of gratitude, I said to her very much like the bad old days. I said, you've got to be kidding me, Laura. I am not going to stroke his ego. And just saying that now is so hard to say in the stern voice in which I said it to her.
Yeah.
I just wasn't there yet. I had some other personal work to do in the area of self-care, and practicing the skill of respect in and of itself was just plenty enough for my plate at that time. And so I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But it's not that way anymore, Mila. I express gratitude all the time now and just realize it's the way to melt resentment in my experience. And I didn't realize. So it's like rejecting the news that I had already trusted. And so it's one of the things that I've learned about practicing the skills is that I too can still be a mere mortal woman and forget and want to be right. Uh, and I'm humbled uh, time and time again at remembering how simple the skills are, and yet they're not that easy without somebody really helping you see your blind spots. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I became a coach. I'm grateful that I have a coach, that I get to be part of a community where we get to support each other, uncovering those blind spots. They still
Yeah.
happen to today, even 20 years later. So surprising that I can, get depleted or forget or um, yeah, want my way.
Yeah. Oh, Yes, definitely. I hear you. I can relate to that for sure. And it's wonderful to have the skills in your kind of in your pocket at any time.
Yes.
Yeah. And so before we go to how your relationship is now, because I believe that's like the highlight of this session.
Mhm.
What else? I'm sure that everyone is waiting to hear that bit of the story. Is there anything else that you did? Tell us a little bit more.
Mm. Well, as I mentioned, I did end up becoming a coach and leading workshops and coaching women all around the world. And as I mentioned, I was a CFO for a private school for 25 years. And, after, gosh, all those years of practicing the skills and saving my marriage and really changing the culture in my home, I was honored to be asked to join Laura to create our coaching organization when I got to meet you in coach training. And so life has just gotten as good as I can stand. And I just want to acknowledge you for reaching women in Bulgaria. It's such an honor to watch you reaching women that we wouldn't otherwise get to reach. It's our vision that the skills get in the hands of all women. They're such
Yeah.
empowering tools. They're not rules, they're tools
Oh,
to
yeah.
empower, yeah, women being happy and successful, having
Yeah.
intimate relationships with not just their significant other, but all members of their family or their coworkers and life in general. And so I've practiced these skills with all the people in my life. And I got to really see, oh my gosh, I was controlling at work too. Oh my goodness, I was so empowered to begin to let go of the grip that I would have on situations and circumstances. And I realized it just lightened my load, actually, made me happier and less stressed and more
Yeah.
relaxed and allowed others to contribute. And so I just yeah, I did everything. I did it all. I jumped in with both feet for sure.
Yeah. But it sounds like you had some kind of a relief, right?
Oh, yes.
It's like from kind of engulfing and like dealing with everything and controlling
Yes.
everything, you kind of let go of things. And as a result of that, you ended up founding this organization that now helps women take on your path.
Hmm.
And it sounds like you've just created your dream life because you have
Oh,
the
yes.
time and the energy to do that. So
Yes, it's exactly right. Who knew that surrendering, relaxing, tending to my happiness, letting go of having to be the one, to know everything, to do everything. Who knew that that was going to give me so much joy and peace and harmony, you know? I just had
yeah,
no idea how afraid I was actually, Mila. When I look back at what was underneath all of that, it was just fear, you know?
yeah, yeah,
And now Doug and I are going to celebrate 30 years of marriage this year in December. 30 years. And here
yeah.
we were going to get a divorce. Now we have beautiful grandchildren and all of our children are married with children and it's something I'm super proud of.
Yeah, you should. 30 years. Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. And so tell us a little bit more. How is your relationship now?
Oh my goodness, it's amazing. He just dotes on me hand and foot. He does the dishes, he cleans our house, he feeds me lunch. He just takes care of me, drives me everywhere. He wants nothing but for me to be happy. He lightens my load, he manages all of our finances. I haven't touched him in over a decade. Mind you, that's my expertise. I haven't, once I relinquished control of the finances, I've never looked back. And we're really much more financially abundant than we ever have been since he's been managing it. And so I'm just super proud and grateful that I have my husband, and he's my hero, and we spend walks together. We just did a car ride together. Absolutely enjoyed every minute of it. It was like a 10-hour car ride to and fro. Just peace and harmony and love and fun.
Yeah. Wow, sounds like a lot of fun.
It
Sounds like
really is.
a lot of
Oh,
joy.
and by the way, lots of physical intimacy too.
Yeah.
That all came back as well. And it's gotten very creative and interesting in our empty nest years.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. You
Thank
deserve that.
you.
I'm so happy. And it's so it's like I'm impressed. So you're a finance professional and you handed over the finances of your family to your husband completely.
Mhm.
And I just love hearing this that as a result of that, you actually a lot you probably thought you knew better than him, right? Because you had
Yeah,
the education. So it's like
did.
no one else can do it better than me. I mean, I'm
Right?
educated.
Mhm.
But and the result is that you're actually more financially abundant than ever.
Ever.
Wow. Amazing. That's my experience too. Ever since I handed
Mm.
over the finances to my husband, we also have more than ever. So it's not, there's something there,
Yes,
right?
something there. Yes.
Yeah.
Plus, he gets to be my hero. He gets to feel like he's a provider. And I just robbed him of that when I was managing it all. And it was a burden and stressful. Again, it's another example of a surprise. Like, oh,
Yeah.
the thing I thought that I should do actually was costing me so much intimacy and connection and fun and joy and harmony and peace in my home and my life.
Yeah. And abundance as well, sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love hearing that.
Mm.
Wow. It sounds like magic. Sounds like some kind of magic happened there, Kathy. That
We talk
lonely.
about it being the skills are magical. They're simple skills, and yet they can be tricky to implement. I know for me anyway, like I said, I succeeded and forgot. I would remember and forget on a daily basis. And even today, 20 years of practicing these skills, I still want to connect with coaches like you and other women who feel desiring of practicing the skills, because it keeps the skills alive for myself. Reminds me of where I once was and the power of these skills. It's very inspiring to see other women transforming their lives. It just, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
so inspired. So thank
Yeah.
you again for touching the lives of women and allowing me to share my story. I hope someone can resonate with, maybe they're struggling and want to turn things around, and they'd be willing to have some courage to know someone else has done it, and that means they can do it too.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone can, definitely.
Mhm.
And I just can't hide those skills. It's like these like the best kept secret.
Yes.
And so every woman should know them and should
Mhm.
be able to, to use them and create what she wants in her
Yes.
life. Yeah, because
Yeah.
everything is possible with them. They're just so they
Mm.
are indeed magical. And Kathy, so what would you tell to yourself now, to your former self from like 30 years ago? If you could meet her, what would be the thing that you would tell her?
Hmm. I think the thing that I wish I had before was being open-minded. And I think the second thing would be to be willing to experiment with something that you've never done before or tried before. I think those two things really made the difference. I was open minded and I was willing to experiment. And through that process of being open-minded and experimenting, I got a taste of something that I wanted more of. And even though it was a start and a stop and a succeed and fail, I never really believed it wasn't possible for me to create what Laura shares is possible, because she created it for her marriage. And she helped lots of women before me. And it's just me continuing to choose my faith over my fear. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. What would be your message to Bulgarian women?
Well, first of all, for sure to find out about the intimacy skills and get amongst a group of women who are wanting to, create vibrant, happy relationships and marriages. I mean, I think that makes a big difference to have support surrounding you, especially if you're struggling. My therapist telling me to get a divorce or my girlfriend telling me to either shut up or get a divorce wasn't really helpful. I wanted to remain married. I wanted to have a happy marriage. And so getting around someone or group of people who are standing for my marriage, I think that's what I would recommend. And I'm partial. I think every woman who would benefit from having a coach. I still have coaching. I get coaching because I still am a mere mortal woman, and I feel empowered every time I talk with a coach. So, being willing to be open, to experiment, to get around a right-minded community of women who are for marriage or your relationship, and experimenting with maybe getting coaching. I think that served me well over 20 years.
Yeah. It is serving me too. So, well, thanks for sharing that. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, Mila, all that you're doing to empower women. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Kathy. It's my
You're so
honor.
welcome. Thank you.
Yes, we are offline. Thank you so much, Kathy. It
You're
was
so welcome.
beautiful.
Oh, I hope so. You're so welcome.
It was so
You're so
beautiful. It flew so nicely, and yeah, and I
welcome.
think we had a couple of live. I wanted to focus really because on Facebook it has a delay, so I really wanted to focus to be able to look at you at the moment you're saying things. I kept looking into Zoom, but I'm gonna check. Now let you
Good.
know what the impact is doing.
Okay. Oh,
So
good.
much for so vulnerably sharing and
You're so
inspiring
welcome.
Bulgarian women to endorse, embrace the skills, and create what they want.
You're welcome, Mila. It's my pleasure.
But I'll see you
Take care.
tomorrow. Discovery
Okay.
call. I
All
said,
right.
bye.
Bye.